Hey, grade eights, it's lesson 8.1 for the good of the people. In today's lesson, we are going to take a look at the worldview inquiry, read the opening story, and go over some vocabulary words. So stick around and let's learn something. All right, chapter 8 for the good of the people. This is lesson 8.1, still part of unit 2, worldviews in conflict. So let's take a look at our opening. All right, lesson 8.1, the beginning of chapter 8 for the good of the people. This is still part of unit 2, worldviews in conflict. So let's get started and take a look at our opening story. The year is 1519. In the center of Tenochtitlan, Moctezuma stood alone on the roof of his palace, observing the stars. Moctezuma, the leader of the Aztec people, was known as the Great Speaker. One of his many responsibilities was to watch the night sky for signs that might tell of future events and interpret these for his people. His decisions as emperor were influenced by the movements of heavenly bodies. Lately, there had been some bad omens, or signs, for Aztec society. Many people had heard a strange voice in the night that sounded like a mother wailing for her children. Then, one day, the lake waters surrounding the city turned as red as blood. And, of course, there was the ever-present threat of the fifth sun being destroyed by an earthquake. Moctezuma turned his gaze from the sky to the great temple just across the square from his palace. Could it really be possible that this building, the center of the Aztec universe, might someday soon lie in ruins? Then, suddenly, there was a terrifying sign. Flaming across the night sky was what the Aztecs called a star serpent, a comet with a fiery tail. This was a terrible omen foretelling death and destruction. So, the inquiry question that we're going to answer by using the elements of values and society, the question is, how does a society's way of looking at the world influence its choices, its customs, and ultimately its decisions? Here is your vocabulary list: omens, occult, kalpoli, artisans, quetzal, Kalmakak, restorative justice, telpokali, conscriptions, glyphs, and retributive justice, or retributive justice. I've heard this said a couple of different ways. So I want to go back to that opening story just briefly here. So we know a couple of things already about Moctezuma, the emperor of the Aztecs. He is the great speaker who watches the night sky. It's one of his many duties. And through the movement of the heavenly bodies, the gods will speak to him. And we heard in the story that there were some bad omens happening. We've got mothers crying. We've got bloody waters. And then we see this star serpent, which means death, disease, destruction. It's on its way. So all of these can be approached to from a scientific point of view with current eyes and the information that we have. The mother's crying, we could explain this. Although it was an omen, this can easily be explained scientifically. Perhaps it was the wind blowing. Bloody waters, well, this could be scientifically explained. Maybe an earthquake happened and the sediment that is at the bottom of Lake Texcoco rose and created the redness in the water. We've seen this before in Canada, in Quebec. I forgot the year that this happened, but somewhere, I think maybe, I want to say the early 1800s, there were reports of bloody waters over in Quebec. And it wasn't until much later that scientists investigated and realized that it was just the sediment that was disrupted because of an earthquake. So we can scientifically explain that one. And the star serpent, these are comets. Nonetheless, all of these for the Aztecs are bad omens. Even if you can explain these scientifically, they are still going to be bad omens. All right, I want you to head over to your notebook and complete the questions for this part of the chapter.